Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call the Administrative Services Committee meeting for June 15th, 2020 to order. Please call the roll.
Counselor Cordino.
Here.
Counselor McBurdy.
Here.
Counselor Hill.
Here.
Counselor Plunkett.
Here.
Counselor Burridge.
Here.
Is there any old business to attend to at this committee? Seeing none. Moving right along to item number 1, communication. Mayor William J. Barlow Jr. requests the passage of the attached resolution as the city of Oswego participates in the National League of Cities. Cities Are Essential campaign, calling on the United States Congress to make available funding for local municipalities for COVID-19 related expenses and losses. Mayor Barlow.
Thank you. This is really a ceremonial resolution. I'm been asked to participate in the Cities Are Essential campaign by NICOM. And really what this is a concerted effort to try to get the attention of the federal government and our local, our U.S. senators here in New York and our congressional representatives in the area to advocate for local municipalities to get funding to reimburse expenses that were related to the COVID pandemic, and then also to reimburse or try to assist municipalities for all of their losses. As counselors know, the biggest revenue generator for the city of Oswego's budget is sales tax, even above property taxes, which a lot of people don't realize. So as the economy fluctuates and in this case, dips during the pandemic, the sales tax numbers and other things related to that are hurt as well. So while I'm confident in the city's finances and we'll get clever when it comes budget time, just as we always do, the fact is everybody's hurting in this, including local governments, especially local governments. So this is just a resolution that we're hoping the Oswego Council will pass to show our support for the cause, and we'll submit it to NICOM as they encourage other municipalities around the state to do the same.
All right, very good, Mayor. Any concerns or comments from the council on this one? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Hill, Counselor McBurdy.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 2, the City Engineering Department requests the approval of change order number 5 for the general contract with Marcellus Construction Company Incorporated for the combined sewer separation 3% project in the amount of $0 for extra work to be performed, unforeseen conditions or requests by the city. Mayor Barlow?
Thank you. The attachment can explain in detail the work that was done under this change order. Again, this is work just like this is change order number 5. So just like the 4 change orders before this one, this is work the city actually requested through GHD, the engineering form for the contractor to do. It's a $0 change order because it's coming out of that initial $600,000 allowance that we set. And the change order is for located a 6-inch water main that we had to cut and cap on West 1st, 2 6-inch gate valves on West 2nd that we had to take care of. And then the contractor accidentally touched an unmarked water service. So it's the city's fault actually for never marking or documenting where that water service is. Total expense for all 3 change orders combined into this one order is just shy of $10,000, around $10,000. So 9,700 to be exact. So again, work that the city requested for number 15 and 16 and number 17. We didn't request, but certainly is our fault to begin with for not documenting it. We need to make it right. And we'll be better off with infrastructure in the long run.
All right, very good. This obviously is one that we've seen before, these change orders coming on the consent decree work, so probably not the last one we'll see. So does anybody have any comments or concerns or questions on this particular item? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Plunkett, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 3, Philip Cady, Police Chief, requests permission to have funds transferred from the General Fund contingent account to the Police Department miscellaneous expense account in the amount of $16,500 for higher education tuition expenses. Mr. Mayor?
So that's pretty cut and dry from the explanation in the item. But the short of it is we have several members, more than we anticipated when we did the budget last summer, that are taking higher education classes. Chief Cady was one of them, but also some other members, and that's something that's in their contract that allows them to do. And it's something we obviously encourage because higher education, more education, the officers are learning as they go. And, obviously that helps them do their job out on the street here in Sweet.
All right, very good. Any questions from anybody on the council? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Burridge, Counselor Hill.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 4, the city clerk's office has received a request from Oswego Speedway for a 2020 race license. This should be an easy one for you, Mayor.
Yep, standard license that the Speedway has to come try to get in order to host their weekly program and their season, assuming they can get the season off and running once we get past these COVID restrictions. So nothing out of the ordinary here, no real substantial changes.
All right, very good. Any comments or concerns on this one? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? McBurney, Counselor Plunkett.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 5, the city clerk's office has received a request from JWJ Industries for a solid waste license for the year 2020. Once again, looks like an easy one for you, Mayor.
Another easy one, not much to explain here other than JWJ is they get this license pretty much every year. So no reason to deny them. And they came in and wanted it again for this year.
Very good. Any questions or concerns from anybody? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Hill, Counselor McBurney.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 6, Thomas Kells, Commissioner of Public Works and Parks and Recreation, request authorization for use of funds from the Ice Rink Capital Reserve Fund in the amount not to exceed $40,000 to replace the vintage water tower at the Cullinan Rink, including concrete pad and fencing. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Well, as you said, the vintage water tower is an old water tower, and the concrete pad and fencing. This unit is used to actually make the ice that will go out on the rink, as the description vintage is accurate, as it's really past its useful life, so needs to be replaced. So we'd like to do that now, get this resolution in process so that DPW can get that done before the next ice skating season. Just to recap, so the new counselors and the public are aware, the money that we're talking about, in this case, $40,000, but also any money when it comes to the ice skating or the rinks, are in a capital reserve fund, which means the fees associated with ice rental and entry fees go into this fund to be used to maintain the rinks or any other expense associated with the ice rink. So this is the capital fund that really replenishes itself, and that's the $40,000 we're using to do this maintenance.
All right, very good. Thank you very much for that explanation. Is there any questions on this one? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Plunkett, Counselor Hill.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
All right. Any other, that was the last item for this agenda, for this committee. Is there anything else anybody needs to bring up? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? Counselor McBurney, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to call the Physical Services Committee meeting for June 15th, 2020 to order. Please call the roll.
Counselor Hill,
Here.
Counselor Burridge,
Here.
Counselor Walker,
Here.
Counselor Gozek.
Here.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of our May 18th, 2020 committee meeting? Counselor Gozick, Counselor Walker.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozek.
Yes.
Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business under communication. Item number 1, the Special Events Committee has received a request from the Greater Oswego-Fulton Chamber of Commerce requesting the use of public space and road closures for the annual weekly farmers market to be held on Thursdays beginning July 9th to October 8th. This is a pretty standard request. Use of public space on West 1st Street between West Mohawk and West Bridge, use of Civic Plaza, use of the city bandstand, and it's from 3:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Are there any questions or concerns on this request? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Counselor Walker, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozek.
Yes.
Okay, item number 2. Oh, did I cut someone off? Okay, I lost connection for a second. Item number 2, the Zoning and Planning Office has received a request from Anthony Pauldine, owner of a commercial property located at 28 West Bridge Street in the 3rd Ward, for use of public space to install an air conditioning unit between the curb and property line fronting West 2nd Street. I did have a chance to go down and take a look at this space, and the unit is already placed there. I was kind of on the fence at first, but after seeing the unit in the space, understanding that this isn't something that we would typically approve, it is a pedestrian thoroughfare, busy street. There's some safety issues that arose when I went down there. The grates on the top of the unit are actually wide enough for an adult hand or fingers to go into. So there's a lot of issues there that concern me. Most of the buildings downtown use either the side or back of their building for units, or many of them have rooftop units. I did get a chance to speak to Mr. Pauldine, and he said that there is no inside access to the roof, which was one of the reasons why he didn't invest in either repairing or replacing the rooftop unit that's there. I know other buildings downtown. I spoke to some owners today who have the same issue, but they work with the neighboring buildings to actually access the roof. And when they need repairs, they go through other buildings and then cross different roofs to get to their units. So there are opportunities for repairing these units, servicing them. I did hear from other counselors who were in opposition to this as well. So if anyone would like to chime in, I'm happy to take some comments on this. Councilor McCready?
So I did have a chance to go downtown today and look through the downtown area. It was my feeling that we had no sidewalk storefront units yet in downtown, and we do not. I mean, we have some on the backside of Water Street behind Canal Commons. But that's obviously the backside of that building, and it fronts on a parking lot. It's not a major pedestrian thoroughfare. It's not our core downtown. So I just think I certainly am not going to support the first sidewalk main thoroughfare air conditioning unit in the downtown area. No. I don't think that's not a precedent that I'm going to vote for.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Councilor Cordino?
Yes, thank you, Councilor Hill. I agree with everything that Councilor McBurney said. In addition to that, I feel that if we were to approve this, it certainly would set a precedent, and any future requests from business owners on First Street or Second Street or anywhere in our downtown area that wanted them on their sidewalk, we'd have a tough time saying no if we approve this one. So again, there are other options on where this could be placed. Councilor Hill listed the roof as one of them. And it sounds like that certainly that could be accommodated, even though there isn't any roof access. They can always get up there when they had to fix it or repair it. But again, I would strongly urge this not be approved and that the current unit be moved to the roof. Thank you, Councilor Hill.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Councilor Walker. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I believe I'm going to side with Councilor Cordino and Ms. McBurney too about that. I think we're going to set a precedence for that, and I don't think we should, because everybody's going and their brother will be coming out looking for that. So I'm not going to support this.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Seeing no motion, we'll just move on to item number 3. Item number 3, the Oswego City County Youth Bureau, in partnership with the Oswego County Federal Credit Union, wish to present murals in the park in Washington Square Park, East Park. Are there any questions or concerns with this request? Mayor?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak briefly about this project because it's new, and it's one of an adjustment to the time we're living through now. This is a clever idea by the Youth Bureau that they came up with to allow family members, friends, or graduates themselves to place a mural in East Park facing 104, and depending on how many we get, we'll create really a cluster so that people can actually recognize the graduates. So this project, in addition to our senior banner project down 104 to honor our students, our seniors, graduating seniors, just another way that the city government's trying to do what's right and honor the graduating seniors, since we're going to have to finally get some clarity here, but finally going to have to go through a unique graduating process. So this is a way that the community set up, and I thank the Youth Bureau for their creativity and putting this program together under short notice.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Could I have a motion, please? Councilor Walker.
Councilor Hill,
Yes.
Councilor Burridge,
Yes.
Councilor Walker,
Yes.
Councilor Gozak.
Yes.
And the last item is actually an add-on, number 4. The Zoning and Planning Office has received a request from Francis Enright, owner of a single-family dwelling located at 73 West Schuyler Street, for use of public space in order to install a retaining wall and fence. There was a drawing included in the packet. It was put in Novus for everyone to look at, and I did speak with Jeff McGann today, who was in full support of this project. Councilor McBurney, do you have any comments on this?
So I just wanted to, one of the things that's driving this is the right now it's a sharp incline of the lawn and then there's a fence on top. And every time it rains, there's a sheet of water that flows down, obviously downhill, but it creates a sheet of ice across their eastern side neighbor's driveway and apron, which has been a recurring safety issue for many years now. So I think this would actually be a really good move for the neighborhood.
Any other questions or concerns, comments? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Counselor Burridge, Counselor Walker.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozak.
Yes.
Is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Counselor Gozak, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Gozak.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to bring the Planning Development Committee to order, please. Can you call a roll?
Counselor Walker,
Here.
Counselor Cordino,
Here.
Counselor McBurdy,
Here.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve the minutes of May 4th, 2020? Counselor Gordino, Counselor McBurdy.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy,
Yes.
Do we have any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll go to new business. Authorizations. Mayor William Barlow Jr. requests consideration of legislation implementing the nuisance abatement chapter 170 of Oswego City Code. Mr. Barlow?
Thank you. This law is really something that's came up after serving as mayor now for 4.5 years and as a counselor for 2. And of course, we have a fairly experienced council here. We've found that as we've built up our code enforcement program, that program has become extremely effective in our neighborhoods, tackling homes that are that create blight in neighborhoods, holding landlords accountable, taking care of anything from tall grass to trash in the front lawn to structural issues like the porch falling off the front of the house or an unsafe roof or staircase, points of egress, and so on. So I'm proud of the code enforcement program we've built in 4 years, and I think the council and most of the residents in Oswego have seen the effects of a well-oiled code enforcement program so far. And this is really just a way to build on that program. At the same time, separate from code enforcement are neighborhood issues that don't fall under code enforcement. Those neighborhood issues include consistent disturbances at any given residence in a neighborhood. Could be loud partying every night, could be music being played and gatherings that seem to be happening several nights a week, requiring a police response. It could be criminal activity that's reported in, whether it's drug activity or other criminal activity that requires a police presence or a police response after being reported by neighbors or the counselor. And what we found is there's usually a correlation between the two properties. And what we've also found is that if you, I'll call it team up with code enforcement and the Oswego Police Department on the property, you get results with much more of an impact. And usually you get results a little more quickly and you get the house brought under control. Right now, just so the council knows, usually what I'll do is every week to 2 weeks, I'll get a report of the properties that the police department has responded to for things like, in fact, I was showing Councilor Plunkett today, for things like disturbances, domestic calls, partying, really anything suspected drug activity, criminal activity, the things I've mentioned. I get a report on that every week or 2 weeks, depending on the volume. And then what we do is we take that list, and then I actually personally turn it over to code enforcement, and I ask them to go around. So we're addressing the property on the law enforcement side, and then we address the property on the code enforcement side. And what we found is that produces results when you, say, hit the property from both ends and team up on the property and address all the issues at one time, so that they, meaning the tenant or landlord, make the correlation that, look, this behavior led not only police department, but code enforcement to show up as well, and vice versa. This legislation really officially ties the two departments, and really makes that process that I've used informally a formal process. And what this legislation essentially says is, if a property is constantly a nuisance, and that's why we titled it the Nuisance Abatement Code chapter. If the property is constantly a nuisance, and by nuisance, it's really a broad term. It could be anything from a constant code complaint causing violations of any kind, and or a property that constantly consumes police services and requires a police response. If the property is in the attention all the time and constantly a nuisance to the neighbors, then we put in this process where if there's 2 criminal convictions out of the property within a 12-month period, the committee that this legislation establishes has the ability to either fine the property owner, revoke the rental permit, or straight up close the property down entirely for up to a year. And that punishment is determined based on, first of all, it's determined if it's warranted or not based on that committee, if it meets the criteria. And then the severity of the punishment, the committee has the ability to gauge that as well. Also, in addition to the 2 criminal convictions, if the committee builds the case, if the case actually comes before the committee and the case is built prior to coming before the committee, where there aren't 2 criminal convictions, but you can clearly demonstrate the constant response required by code and OPD and the constant complaints coming in from the surrounding neighborhood, then that case can be built as well, and the punishment should be gauged accordingly. That, in a nutshell, is what this legislation is. In the legislation that I attached to your packet that we made public, you can actually see the specific penal law articles that fall under this law. I think that's pretty transparent and clear. You just scan the law quickly. The law also talks about evidence and the presumptions, talks about definitions, and so on. So I think it's a law to easy read. If people really want to dive in, they can see. I just covered the concept of it and the intent of it. Lastly, I'll talk about the committee. The committee, as proposed, establishes a 3-person committee, and that committee is, I propose to make up of be comprised of the director of code enforcement, the chief of police, and then the city attorney. Ultimately, any action would have to come to a vote before that committee. So outside of that summary, happy to take questions.
Very good. Any have questions for the mayor on that? Ms. McBurney.
So, Mayor, I wanted to find out, I understand that we took a noise abatement ordinance that had been approved and established in the city of Auburn.
Well, this is the nuisance.
Yes.
This legislation is modeled after what the chief of police, actually our chief of police, communicated with Auburn's chief of police, and that's where this model comes from.
Okay, thank you. I did have a chance to sit down with Chief Katie and Officer Damian Waters for a little bit on Sunday morning to talk about a few different things. But one of my, really the only main concern that popped out at me when I read the ordinance is the makeup of the committee. So on the enforcement implementation side, it makes perfectly good sense. You have the director of code enforcement, you have the chief of police, and the city attorney. But on the hearing side, it seems that it would need members, it would probably be 2 additional to keep it an odd number, but members, just members of the community, not tied to the enforcement side or the implementation side, in order for there to be a presumption of a fair hearing if you were going to take it before the committee for a hearing. So if the committee is the vehicle for the hearing, then it needs to have, I think, someone on it, 2 people on it who are not part of the enforcement side or the implementation side, I guess is what I'm saying.
Anything else? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion?
Or Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would just say if there's an appetite to expand the committee, first I would just ask that in order for somebody to be on the committee, they shouldn't have a rental permit in their name in the city of Oswego. I don't want landlords on the committee. Doesn't make any sense, and they tend to blame the tenants for everything anyway. Secondly, I would ask that the committee should make that amendment so that when we vote to establish a public hearing next week, that change is made prior to the public hearing. So if there's the appetite for the council to do that now, or at least this committee, I think they could, the committee could vote to make that change, and then ultimately the full council will vote on the change the committee makes Monday. And just to clarify, the vote on Monday is to establish the public hearing. The final vote to make this law won't take place for another 2 weeks.
Correct.
I would make, so we just voted, we would include to amend 2 additional community members, not landlords.
Yeah, that's all just a motion to amend. So to amend the law to add 2 more positions to the committee itself. And then if there's the council appetite to make that caveat that the committee members, to be eligible to be on the committee, you can't have a rental permit in your name in the city, that would be the amendment.
Yes. Okay.
Counselor Walker.
Yes, sir.
Yep, I just would like to chime in real quick. It's Counselor Gosick. I support this nuisance abatement resolution 100%. Obviously, some of the newer counselors, having served over 10 years, and Counselor Cordino knows, Mayor knows as well. Obviously, we've seen this again and again, these trouble properties and rentals. But I do like Counselor McBrearty's idea of expanding it so that we have the presumption, of innocence there. I mean, I know the code enforcement director and the police chief and the city attorney obviously are going to be, fair and unbiased. But I think that she makes a really good point that when it comes down to the community, because people can just say, well, it's just, they're out to get me or they're against me. And, repeatedly I get calls for, so I'm all for it. But I, for one, do support expanding the number of committee members to 5. So I just wanted to put that on the record for you.
Very good. Thank you. So what I'll do is if I can get a motion with an amendment to this, to add 2 more committee members and not to let them have any rental permits, and that'd be the motion. If I can get one, please. Councilor McBrearty. Councilor Cordino.
Counselor Walker.
Yes to the amendment with it.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes to amend.
Counselor McBrearty.
Yes to amend.
Okay, going on.
Do we have to pass a second resolution to?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we probably should. Yeah.
You think we should?
Why not? Yeah.
All right, we will. Okay, we'll go with the amended part on that. Do I have a motion? Councilor McBrearty, Councilor Cordino.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes, voting on the amended resolution.
Counselor McBrearty.
Yes to the amended resolution.
Okay, moving on. Mayor William J. Barlow Jr. proposes an amendment to the City of Oswego Zoning Code 280-47A1 to prohibit for rent signs in TN1, TN2, UR, SR, MT, and WA zoning districts. I'm going to let Mayor Barlow speak on this, and I believe a lot of us do have a lot to say about this. So I'll let Mayor Barlow speak now.
Sure. So again, this isn't a full out prohibition of rental advertisement in the city of Oswego. This is just prohibiting the advertisement of rental properties and for rent signs in really the residential neighborhoods. That's why we list TN1, TN2, UR, SR, MT, and WA, which is waterfront. And the reason for this is pretty simple. You know, I realize that there are certainly more pressing issues, but, you know, city government should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. If you drive around town now, particularly during after the SUNY community leaves town and before they come back for the fall semester, you'll see these for rent signs popping up, whether they're on the home in a window or pasted on a railing or put up in the front yard randomly. And, you know, if you drive around now, you can really see how they pop up. And in my opinion, how they take away from the neighborhood. A couple points, really 4 points. The first point is I believe that the for rent sign in and of itself is a source of blight. You know, when you see a for rent sign duct taped to a window or to a door, stapled to a porch railing, or thrown up like a yard sale sign, but it stays up there for an extended period of time in the front lawn. I don't think that particularly looks good. I don't think it fits. I think as we spend really millions of dollars and see investment from organizations like the ORA and even Oswego citizens outside of the ORA's process investing in their property, which we're seeing in every corner of the community. I don't think a landlord who's typically out of town putting up a for rent sign is really doing the neighborhood any favors. So I just contributed to really a main source of blight. I suppose that's the problem with actually raising the housing stock and enforcing the code the way we are, is that smaller issues like for rent signs stick out more, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. The second is I just find that there's so many other ways to advertise for rental properties now, whether it's Craigslist or other community websites where you can put these advertisements, the newspaper, you have social media. You'll find that a lot of reputable landlords are resorting to digital ads and using websites and social media to properly market their rental properties. I just find that having to resort to a for rent sign, I don't think is particularly effective. I know talking to our Section 8 rental housing staff, they don't find the for rent signs to be particularly effective, and often refer clients to landlords that they find using these other more appropriate sources of advertisement. So I just think in a world where there's so many other more effective, more professional ways to advertise, we're looking for the landlords and the rental properties who resort to those effective and professional methods, and not the ones who you know, feel like it's appropriate to throw the sign in the lawn, walk away, get in their car, and drive to Baldwinsboro, wherever they live, to live in their house. The third point is really tied to the second point, in that if there's a direct correlation most of the time between properties with a for rent sign and the condition of their home. If you drive around town today and look at where the for rent signs are and look at the property, you can see that there is that correlation. And also, if you take down the address of the property and then go to Google and type in who owns the property or the property manager, you can probably see a correlation there as well, where it's a handful of bad apples, handful of landlords, handful of business owners who want to take the easy way out, throw that lawn sign up, and they're typically the same landlords that consume, you know, at least half of our code enforcement's office's time and energy, having to be reined in and take care of their properties and tend to their tenants. So the type of landlord that I'd like to have here in the city are the landlords, the Adam Averys, the Matt Brancatos, who they resort to that digital advertising. They have A+ homes. They treat their tenants with respect. They're attentive to their property and responsive to city government. That's who I want to own property in Oswego. In that correlation, their properties, if you drive around, do not have for rent signs in the front lawn. On the other side, again, look at who does have the for rent signs. They're quite frankly the landlords that I wish would liquidate, sell their property to the responsible landlords, leave town and they can go invest elsewhere if they want to a community that's a little more tolerant to blight and code issues all the time. And, so this for rent sign prohibition may seem small, it may seem insignificant or meaningless, it may seem like a total waste of our time, but it's just one more issue. It really is at its core the same approach we've used to establish our entire code enforcement program. It's just one more thing that those landlords who, in my opinion, are lazy and want to take the easy way out have to deal with. Oh, here we go. The city of Oswego. They fined me for the porch falling off my property. The police showed up because the tenants were out of control 3 nights a week. Oh, they're mailing me letters because I won't mow my lawn and the neighbors are complaining. Oh, and now here's the latest thing. I can't put the for rent sign duct taped to my railing or throw it in the front lawn. That, again, that additional nudge is what I think it takes to deter that sort of behavior, the behavior we don't want. And then lastly, the final point, and in my opinion, probably the most important point, for rent signs are negative indicators in neighborhoods. If you're looking to buy a house, to relocate, or to invest in the house you already own or live in, if there's a for rent sign in the neighboring property or down the street, that's a negative indicator and you're going to look elsewhere. And that's just a fact. So again, there's a lot of work we can do to change that trend. And I think we're already doing that work so that we have more owner-occupied homes in our neighborhoods and not as many for rent signs. We have a lot of work we can do. We're doing it. But again, I think this blatant advertisement, sticking a for rent sign, our neighborhoods are not billboards. It's not appropriate for business advertisement in the neighborhoods. And I think they're negative indicators and they pull the neighborhood down. In summary, I think this prohibition in residential neighborhoods is one small, easy move we can make to just raise our neighborhoods and raise our expectations this much.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the opportunity to talk to code enforcement about this, and I just think we should personally work together and let's make stipulations they got to go by. If they want to put for rent signs up, they get them from us and have them up for 2 weeks only. We got to collaborate with these people and see what we can do. But I think we can work it out because there are some people, like elderly people, that own houses that some people move and they don't have the opportunity to go to the internet. That I know what you're saying, Mayor, but I personally think we can probably work with these people. They got to get a permit for it and go by our guidelines. So, any other concerns? Councilor Cordino.
Thank you. Just a couple points I wanted to make. In the interest of making sure that the people who are watching this meeting understand, you read off all the initials for the. We recently changed and revamped our zoning designations, and you read off TN1, TN2, UR, SR, MT, and MWA. I think in the interest of transparency, we should explain what those areas are. TN1 is traditional neighborhood. TN2 is traditional neighborhood 2. UR is urban residential. SR is suburban residential. MT is maritime, and WA is waterfront. So those are the districts on the area of the city that the mayor is proposing to prohibit for rent signs. At this time, I'd like to propose a compromise using what the mayor's proposed and what Councilor Walker just said. I too had an opportunity to talk to our codes department, and they felt that it wouldn't be an inconvenience or a hardship if we modified the program and allowed for rent signs. However, that anybody that wanted a for rent sign would have to go through the codes department free of charge, could get a for rent sign, and it would be restricted to a size of, let's say, 1 foot by 1 foot. The codes department could print up 500 of these, have them sitting on a desk there and at a nominal cost to us. And then we'd have some control. I think working out some of the details, as Councilor Walker mentioned, I'm not sure we should charge. I think it should be free. We are charging $150 for 3 years of a rental permit, and I think a 1 foot by 1 foot sign is not asking a lot for the city to contribute. And that would address all these large and ugly signs that the mayor has mentioned that are duct taped to walls and stapled. Instead of having all these different kind of signs, they would all be uniform. They would be small in stature, but still would be a form of advertising. Because as I've talked to a few people, there are still people who drive around neighborhoods and do select where they live by seeing signs like this. But I certainly understand what the mayor is getting at when he talks about that we're trying to control blight in our neighborhoods. In the last 4.5 years under his leadership, we've beefed up the codes department and improved our regulations and improved, I think, the quality of life in our neighborhoods. But in the same token, we have landlords. I know of a widow who owns a house with an apartment upstairs. That's how she advertises with a sign in her window. And we also have large landlords, as the mayor mentioned, Adam Avery and Matt Brancato, who have other means to advertise. But I just feel that we should compromise and not have an all-out ban. First of all, I think we're targeting a industry and a business where we're not targeting other industries. What about the roofing guy who puts a roof on my house and puts a sign in the front lawn? What about the pest control company that comes to my house and puts a sign in my front lawn? What about the contractor who paves my driveway or seals the driveway and puts a sign in my front lawn? Are we, and not to mention one of the biggest signs that you see around the city, the for sale signs by Galloway, Century 21, and Berkshire. I mean, there's a ton of signs that we can talk about, and I think singling out just one industry, we're only touching the top of the iceberg as far as I'm concerned when it comes to signs. So again, I propose a compromise based on my conversation with the codes director, that we would supply the signs at no charge to anybody that wanted them. We would have some type of control saying that they can only put them up for 2 months or 2 weeks, whatever we designate. And the signs would be uniform, would be small in stature, and wouldn't be ugly. And that's what I'm offering as a compromise based on my conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other like to speak? Counselor Hill.
Just one question. If we were to standardize the signs, make them uniform, and if we're targeting a demographic that isn't really using technology, how do they contact whoever manages the property to get in touch with them, to see the property, to rent it? So, I mean, there's a gap there. If all the signs just say for rent, I mean, will they be printed with the number? Will there be some aspect to let people know how to get in touch with the property owner?
It would be a city for rent sign with a place to put your phone number so they can contact them. It's going to be like a normal, but it's just going to be a regular old sign that the city makes, and it's going to be their sign.
So
that's what we'd like to do.
Fairly decent looking sign with a handwritten phone number seems to kind of defeat the purpose of having a nice standardized sign. So I'm just kind of seeing a little bit of a
okay, we'll make them pay to put their numbers on there with stickers. I'm
just thinking ahead that we can print 500 signs that say for rent, but no one will know how to get in touch with people. So just
we just want to keep control who has them. If you don't go down and get a permit to get one, you're not getting one. And then the code enforcement can go there and say, hey, we're sorry, you got to yank that out. Here's a file for a permit, and you get one of ours. No cost to you, but we know you got one now. And it's got to be in a certain spot of the house.
Okay.
Councilor McBurdy.
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised to find hear from the Director of Code Enforcement that we actually do have a code that says that you have to have your sign. It has to be a specific size and it has to be put in a specific place. Because it seems to me that we could have just notified the landlords of the egregious properties to modify their signs to comply with code. I definitely agree with Councillor Cordino in terms of the number and breadth of signage that we encounter for all different kinds of reasons, whether it's commerce and contractors on our property, whether it's our political signs at the, during elections, whether it's for sale signs when we need to move. I would agree with the idea of standardizing it and enforcing the code. We do have some of the landlords listed. I mean, they have billboards in town advertising their properties, or on the sides of their, the buildings that they own, advertising their business as, their rental business with their contact information. So it's not, everybody has different ways of doing it, but I think almost all the landlords in town have some physical sign within the city limits that says that they have a rental business and this is how you can contact them.
Yes, thank you very much. That's what we're trying to get away from. You see in the billboards on the side when you see student housing, 4, 5, 6 bedroom houses. We don't want that. I understand what Mayor Barlow is saying. Another thing is these yard sale signs are really a pet peeve of mine. They are. People leave them there for months and then you collect them. I see what he's saying. But I think we got to be fair and let them do it and let them go by standards that we want and upkeep the standards. So,
as an older person, I would like to just point out that a 12-inch by 12-inch sign would be really almost impossible to read from the sidewalk. Unless, one of this, I guess I'm thinking of a standard for sale sign that you find in a hardware store, right. Whatever the dimension is. I think it's like 11 by 18 or something like that.
Yes.
But it is a standard size.
Councilor Cordino.
Yeah, I did want to mention something else that I saw today, that these signs, I'm not sure if the mayor is according to this item, it's listed as for rent, and the word for rent is in parentheses. Now, today I saw a sign, a very large sign on West First Street as I was driving home that said available 1 and 2 bedroom apartment. So the way this is going to be written, does it take into account somebody who can be a little creative with their wording? Does it have to have the word for rent in it? If you want to, again, this goes back to the mayor's original proposal of banning all for rent signs. That's another thing that if we were to ban for rent signs, would there be any loopholes if they use the word available or for lease? That would be another term that I've seen for mostly used for commercial, but it could be used for an apartment as well. A lease is a 12-month lease for an apartment. To Councillor Hill's point that we are kind of cheapening the sign by having a nice pre-printed sign printed for rent and then writing in a phone number or an email address. I think that's a little nitpicking, but I think it's still a nice looking sign if it was pre-printed. That's all I needed to add on that one. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other concerns?
I just ask one question, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
First, couple counterpoints, because I can't help myself. The prohibited language that's in the code is exactly the problem, in that landlords, they say, well, it's prohibited except for, so they just go ahead, they take advantage of the language and then do it. So right now it's prohibited except for a sign taped to a window that's 12 by 12 inches. So then they push the envelope and they put 2 in the window, and then they put 1 on the railing, and then they put 1 in the lawn. Where if you just prohibit it outright, then they know it's a no-go. There's no room for interpretation. And there's, kind of to Councilor Cordino's point, is if it's for rent, then it becomes for lease and then available. So you push that envelope, you find the loophole. And I think if you just outright prohibit it, that'll help with determining what belongs where, so on and so forth. The comment Councilor Cordino made about, the contractor, the roof, the landscaper, I would argue that's all good things. They're signs of investment. They're the exact signs I'd like to see. Up until last week, I had a landscaping sign in my house. So that's perfect. I would encourage contractors to put those signs out, and I would encourage homeowners to let them do it to demonstrate they're investing in their property. Lastly, when it comes to billboards and sides of buildings, I'm okay with that because that's an appropriate use, probably in an appropriate place. I've never seen a billboard in a neighborhood, in a residential neighborhood, and I've never seen a side of a building fully advertised in a residential neighborhood. So a couple counterpoints that really draw the fine line between, in my opinion, what's appropriate, what's not. But this is a fair enough compromise for me. The question I had is, so is the council suggesting that for rent signs are prohibited unless approved and registered by code enforcement?
Earlier, when I talked to Code, I talked to him and he said, what we could do is have them register with the code department. And then we know where they are. They are. And then every now and then they'll take a ride, make sure they're in the right place where we would like them. And like he said, no charge for them. There's our signs and they got probably our little logo on there, the city logo. So they know they're in our hands.
So just the reason why I asked, let's play a scenario. If code enforcement drives by a house and there's that standard red for rent sign with the Sharpie marker, they can order that down, call the landlord and say, no for rent signs. If you do want a for rent sign, you could have one. You got to contact us, come to City Hall, get it. And that's the one you can put up on your window.
100%.
Fair enough.
Okay, thank you.
It actually makes it harder to put the for rent sign up. It's good.
Any more questions? Yes, Counselor. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I got us providing them signs. Are we going to take the time to make sure all their zoning's taken care of, all their permits are taken care of, all their licenses are taken care of, or I just find it hard that we're going to hand out a sign to somebody and it's with our logo on it and saying, hey, rent. And we're kind of encouraging people by seeing that, thinking that's coming from us.
They are going to know. Excuse me.
A plain old for sale sign or for rent sign would be fine by me, with their information on it.
Right. What our logos are signed, what we talked earlier, they're going to give it to them. And if they owe back taxes, anything like that, back water bills are not caught up. They are not going to be able to get one and they will not be eligible to have one on that property.
Awesome. I like it.
Only I would make, Chairman, if I could, is I would prefer to not have the city logo because, as I said earlier, the landlords who use for rent signs are the exact landlords I don't want to endorse, and quite frankly, I don't even want here. So I would say, maybe make the sign a prettier blue versus an ugly, obnoxious red, and maybe actually, an example, I really like the Century 21 Galloway signs that are dark blue and blend in with the neighborhood. I mean, kudos to them for taking the neighborhood into consideration when they made those for rent or for sale signs. You can see them if you're looking to buy a house, but if you're not looking to buy a house, they kind of blend in and look slick and nice. Maybe we model our sign after that and allow for that.
Okay, that sounds very good. Everybody else in favor of that, you believe?
Yeah, I would agree with a good color scheme and no city logo. The city logo implies responsibility, I think.
Okay, very good. So we'll make an amendment to this. We'll have codes take over and make signs, and you have to the landlord would have to contact them to get the for rent sign, and they cannot owe any previous taxes or outstanding water bills. Would I have a motion on that?
Do we want to include open code violations?
It'd be great.
That'd be awesome. And open code violations. Thank you very much.
Really good idea.
So,
I make a motion.
okay. Counselor Cordino for a motion?
Yes.
Counselor McBurney for a second?
Counselor Walker,
Yes, for the amendment.
Counselor Corradino,
Yes, as amended.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes to amend.
And then we'll do a motion for the amended. Please. Motion. Counselor McBurney. Counselor Cordino.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Corradino,
Yes, as amended.
McBurney,
Yes as amended.
Thank you very much.
I would say one thing before we adjourn. I'm sorry.
We got another,
Before we go to the next item.
okay, say it.
I would just like to put it out there that we do have some responsible landlords in our neighborhoods who have chosen to use for rent signs. And I'd like to thank every property owner and landlord that's investing in their properties and doing their best to abide by city code. We really appreciate all of their efforts.
Very good. Thank you for that comment. All right, we'll move on to item number 3. City Clerk's Office has received a request from Christina DeSantis of the Sting of Oswego Incorporated, located at 49 West Bridge Street, for a waiver of the noise ordinance in order to have live music on the patio. Or their establishment, excuse me. I think this has changed from last year, and I'm going to jump Mr. Hill because he's been doing his little homework on this, I've seen, and I'll let you start off if you could, please.
Sure. Last year, we actually worked with neighbors around different establishments to come up with a set of guidelines that we would apply uniformly across all establishments that border or in residential areas. And based on what I saw from the Sting, they were asking for blanket approval throughout the summer for Wednesday through Saturday, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. With a decibel limit of 85 decibels. Now, for comparison, our code, the maximum decibel limit in the code, even in our industrial zones, is 65 decibels. 85 would be essentially the sound of a running lawnmower next to your head, running constantly for 4 hours straight, measured at the point of complaint. So it would be whoever puts in the complaint, it would be that noise at their property line. So it just seemed awfully extreme. We put all the work in last year to come up with something that was standardized, easily applied to all the businesses. I emailed it to the members of the committee. It's a 10 p.m. limit on Thursday. Friday and Saturday are a midnight limit. I think that would satisfy the neighbors, and it would also give them the opportunity to have live music at a reasonable limit, which we set at 65, which is the same as in the code.
Very good. Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor McBurney.
Yes, I want to also point out that last year the Sting applied for a variance in excess of these, in excess of what we had decided was reasonable, and we approved a variance as we had determined was reasonable. So this is the second time they know what they got last year. They ran their business within those guidelines last year. And I think that they should fully expect to run them within those guidelines this year.
Very good. Thank you. Councilor Cordino.
I think Councilor Hill omitted one of the days. According to last year's resolution, Sunday nights until 10 p.m. was also.
Sunday, yes. Yep.
And I think you accidentally omitted that.
Yeah, thanks.
Not that we want to encourage loud music on a Sunday, but that was in last year.
Okay.
I do think that this year we do want to change the resolution as since Harborfest has been canceled. I think we want to make sure we take that paragraph, those 2 paragraphs out of the resolution.
For them weekends.
For that one weekend, because
Understandable.
we expanded their ability since the big citywide festival, but if we're not having it, we don't need to give them that expansion.
Very good. Any more comments? Okay, seeing none, what we'll do is we'll make a motion for amending it to go back to what they had last year and take out the Harbor Fest weekend. And we'll go with that. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, if I could get a motion to them amendments. Counselor Cordino, Counselor McBurney.
Counselor Walker,
Yes to amend.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes to amend.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes to amend.
Okay, then we'll go to the amended resolution as I said it was going to be, the same as last year and without Harbor Fest. Could I have a motion to that, please? Counselor McBurney, Counselor Cordino.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Okay, is there no more new business? Could I get a motion, please, to adjourn? Counselor Cordino, Counselor McBurney.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.